Welcome everyone to today's Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled to have you joining me today. We're going to look at one of the most incredible hero stories ever told. Now, usually when we think of heroes, we think of capes, superpowers, maybe defeating bad guys with lasers. But today, we're looking at a very different kind of battle. It's an invisible battle, one that happens inside our own minds and hearts literally every single day. And we're going to explore how the ultimate hero, Christ, faced the exact same struggles that you and I do, and how learning about his victory can actually become a real-life superpower for us today.
Okay, let's dive into this. Have you ever found yourself in a situation where you really wanted to do something, but a little voice in your head said, "Hey, wait a minute, that is definitely not the right thing to do"? Maybe it's telling a tiny lie to get out of trouble, or taking something that doesn't belong to you, or just being unkind to a sibling when you're frustrated. Well, we all have. That strong pull to do the wrong thing, that's called temptation. It's a huge part of growing up, and honestly, a huge part of just being human.
But here's where our story gets absolutely mind-blowing. Listen to this quote from the book of Hebrews. "He was in all points tempted like as we are, yet without sin." I mean, wow. This right here is the main idea of our entire explainer today. Jesus, the ultimate hero we're talking about, faced every single kind of pressure, stress, and temptation that we face today. He wasn't just floating above it all in some protective bubble. He felt the exact same pull to do wrong. Yet, he never gave in, not even once.
Section 1. Leaving heaven behind. And this brilliantly illustrates the sheer size of this victory, right? Because to understand it, we have to look at his path of humiliation. Step by step, he came down. He started as the commander in heaven, completely equal with the Father, possessing all glory. Then, at an infinite cost, he hid his divinity and stepped down to become a helpless babe in Bethlehem. But the timeline doesn't stop there. He grew up living the law of God in human flesh, only to eventually find himself standing in a judgment hall and ultimately nailed to a cross. This wasn't some kind of accident, it was a mysterious, incredibly painful process he purposely chose to endure for us.
Section 2. The unfair trial.
Imagine this for a second. Imagine being perfectly innocent, you've never done a single thing wrong your entire life, and suddenly, you're put on trial. The source text points out this incredible, heartbreaking irony. Jesus stood perfectly sinless and undefiled in that judgment hall. And who was investigating and judging him? The very nation he had previously delivered from slavery. The Lord of glory was rejected, condemned, and the text even notes that men actually spat upon him and smote him in the face, showing total contempt.
Let's move to and see how this builds, because the injustice just piles up. Even the Roman governor, Pilate, pronounced him completely innocent, finding absolutely no fault in him whatsoever. But just to please the angry crowd, Pilate had him horribly bruised and bleeding and handed him over. As the text describes, he was led like a lamb to the slaughter. There was scoffing, jeers, ridicule, false accusations. The crowd's humanity seemed completely dead. Yet through all these cruel sufferings, he stayed silent. Like a sheep before shearers, he opened not his mouth. Why? Because he was willingly giving his life so that all who believed in him wouldn't perish.
Section 3. Tempted just like us.
But the physical pain in the unfair trial, that was really just the outside of the story. The real battle, the one that connects directly to you and me, was happening on the inside. Our source material reveals that Christ was bearing the sins of the whole world, enduring the punishment and wrath against all our wrongdoings. This created a mental and spiritual pressure so heavy that his soul was literally tortured by a horror of great darkness. He endured the fierce temptation of actually thinking he was forsaken, or entirely left alone by God. This was the absolute ultimate test of his faith. It wasn't just physical pain, it was an overwhelming emotional and spiritual darkness.
Now, what's really interesting about this is we might think, well, he was Jesus, of course he won. Actually, scratch that. If there's no possibility of yielding, temptation isn't even real. Jesus was a free agent, meaning he was totally free to choose. And he was placed on probation, which means a period of testing, exactly like the first human, Adam, and exactly like you and me. He had real choices to make. The possibility of him failing was completely real. That's what makes his victory so amazing, for sure. It was a real choice, not an automatic guarantee.
Section 4. Choosing the right path.
So, how did he do it? And more importantly, how can we use his exact same strategy to win our own daily battles? Let's turn this historical story into a practical toolkit for you. First, we need to clearly understand what true temptation is and what a victory actually looks like.
Based on our source, temptation happens when a person is powerfully influenced to do a wrong action and, this is key, knows that they actually can do it. They have the freedom to choose wrong. Having that feeling or being influenced isn't the sin itself. The victory happens when that person resists by faith, keeping a firm hold upon divine power.
So, the crucial point is, you have a step-by-step toolkit right here. Step 1. You feel that strong pull to do something wrong. Don't panic, that's just the influence. Step 2. You realize you're a free agent. You could do it, the choice is yours. But then comes Step 3, the winning move. You resist. You don't try to win on your own strength. You grab hold of divine power by faith, exactly the way Jesus did. Because he lived as a human and won, he proved that this exact formula works. Which leaves us with this incredible thought to carry with us today. If the commander of heaven loved you enough to step all the way down to earth, to endure the unfairness, the darkness, and the exact same daily temptations you face, and he won, he's ready to share that winning power with you. So when you face a tough decision this afternoon, or maybe tomorrow at school, what right choice can his divine power help you make today? You've got the superhero's toolkit right in your hands. Thank you so much for exploring this with me today. Keep making those great choices, and I'll see you in the next explainer.